Good morning, commanders, command chiefs, first sergeants, and supervisors. Welcome to AFPC's webinar on the Air Force Disability Evaluation System, also referred to as the DES. My name is Colonel Rich Lindland. I'm an active duty colonel and an adjudicator on the Air Force Informal Physical Evaluation Board, or IPEB. I'll be hosting today's webinar along with Miss Lori Hodge.
And I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and an adjudicator on the Formal Physical Evaluation Board, otherwise known as the FPEB. Good morning.
Our goal today is to arm you with the information and tools necessary to assist your airmen who are being evaluated by the Disability Evaluation System. I've been in your shoes several times as a commander in the field, and I would have welcomed a briefing like this to help me understand the complex disability process. We hope the next 30 minutes with us will be a solid investment in your airman's future. The purpose of the DES is to maintain a fit and vital force. When an airman becomes wounded, ill, or injured, the medical community assesses and treats the condition with the goal of returning the member to duty. However, should the condition limit the airman's ability to perform their military duties for a period of 12 months or more, create an obvious medical risk to the health of the member or others, or impose unreasonable requirements on the military to maintain or protect the service member, the Air Force must conduct an assessment to determine if the member is medically fit for continued military service. The Air Force DES may transition an active duty, Air Force Reserve, or Air National Guard airmen from military service who can no longer reasonably perform the duties of their office, grade, rank, or AFSC. The DES also ensures fair compensation to airmen whose military careers are cut short due to a service-incurred or service-aggravated medical condition. The Air Force processes approximately 4,000 total force airmen through the DES annually.
The following are some basic concepts regarding the DES to keep in mind. First, airmen have an active role in their case. Airmen have many rights and opportunities to participate in their disability evaluation. Most importantly, it is critical airmen attend all appointments and examinations. Airmen also have appeal rights and may seek the advice and assistance from the Office of Airmen's Counsel, or OAC. The OAC consists of JAG lawyers specializing in DES cases. In addition, airmen can receive legal advice from either a veteran's representative of their choice or a civilian attorney at their own expense to navigate the DES. Second, during the DES process, your airman will be assigned a Physical Evaluation Board Liaison Officer, or PEBLO. The PEBLO is attached to the local military treatment facility, or MTF, and serves as your main point of contact for information or questions. Your PEBLO will notify you once a service member is referred into the DES and communicates the status of the case, including notifying you, the commander, prior to your airman being told the results. This allows you to prepare any appropriate support for your airmen. In general, if you have a question about the DES process, your first stop should be your PEBLO. Third, each case in the DES is unique, evaluated on numerous factors specific to the individual, including but not limited to years of service, rank, AFSC, fitness limitations, deployment and assignment requirements, treatment history, and prognosis. While a provider, PEBLO, attorney, or another airman who's gone through the process may give an airman an idea of what to expect based on their experiences, neither the airman nor you and your command team should ever assume a particular outcome.
Fourth, before an airman is referred into the DES, their primary care manager and the Air Force medical community work very hard to ensure they have reached a maximal medical outcome. It often takes months, if not a year or more, for evaluation and treatment, with the goal that the conditions resolve and the airman is returned to full duty. Most medical cases are handled through MTF treatment and monitoring, and are never referred to the DES. With this in mind, it should come as no surprise that for those cases that are referred to the DES, the average return rate to duty is less than 5%. In other words, 95% of airmen referred to the DES are found unfit and either separated or retired. Therefore, commanders and first sergeants should assist their airmen in taking the appropriate steps to prepare for the likelihood of separation or retirement, including early participation in the Transition Assistance Program. Finally, it's important to understand that the Air Force DES and the Department of Veteran Affairs, or the VA, are different entities with different mandates. While the Air Force DES uses the VA ratings provided as part of our process, a diagnosis that might be rated as a compensable disability by the VA isn't necessarily considered unfitting or compensable according to the Air Force. Here's an example. A tech sergeant with 12 years of service has 3 conditions: a seizure disorder, sleep apnea, and hypertension. The Air Force DES considered each of the tech sergeant's diagnoses. The DES found the seizure disorder to be unfitting for military service based on the impact of this condition on the tech sergeant's ability to reasonably perform his job. However, the DES did not consider the sleep apnea or hypertension as unfitting. In comparison, the VA, because it has a different congressional mandate, considered and rated all 3 conditions as service-connected and compensable by the VA.
The Air Force Disability Evaluation System process can seem very complicated. We've tried to distill this process down into its main components in this diagram. As the graphic illustrates in the purple pre-DES box, medical treatment, the Deployment Availability Working Group, or DOG, and the initial review in lieu of a medical board, called the IRILO process, occur prior to the DES. Once an airman is referred into the DES, there are 4 main components: the Medical Evaluation Board, the MEB, the Informal Physical Evaluation Board, the IPEB, the Formal Physical Evaluation Board, the FPEB, and the Air Force Personnel Board.
One question we are often asked is, why does this process take so long? In 2 words, due process. The Air Force takes the decision to discharge a wounded, ill, or injured airman very seriously, and the process is designed to ensure they are treated fairly and compensated appropriately. In this slide, we've laid out the timeline goals for each section of the DES on what we call the Disability Roadmap. It's important to first note the purple box labeled Pre-DES does not have a timeline goal. Rather, it is listed as indeterminate. This is because an airman's medical condition and course of treatment is individualized to each airman. The Air Force DES process starts when the airman is referred to a MEB and is expected to take approximately 230 days, a goal set by OSD. This 230-day goal assumes the airman utilizes all levels of appeal. Breaking down the process further, the MEB phase, occurring at your local MTF, has a time goal of 76 days. The Physical Evaluation Board phase, which includes all levels of appeal, has a goal of 102 days. The transition phase of the DES, which includes outprocessing from the military through initiation of VA benefits, has a goal of 52 days.
We'd like to expand on the pre-DES portion of this diagram. A majority of injured or sick airmen are medically treated and returned to duty. The DOG is established at each wing or base level MTF and meets at least monthly to review personnel with a deployment limitation code affecting mobility, retention, or long-term physical fitness. An important fact for commanders to know is that they may refer an airman for review by the dog due to duty performance or deployment concerns stemming from a potential medical or mental health condition. The dog determines whether an airman's condition meets medical standards for continued military service, or if the condition requires further review by the Air Force Medical Retention Standards Office at the Air Force Personnel Center. Once referred to the Air Force Medical Retention Standards Office for evaluation, this office will determine if the member can be returned to duty with an assignment limitation code, ALC code, or if the case should be referred into the DES. This review is called an IRILO, or Initial Review in lieu of a medical board. The Medical Retention Standards Office reviews approximately 12,000 cases each year, retaining over 60% of airmen in service, many with an assignment and deployment limitation code. This allows the airman to remain in service and the Air Force to monitor the airman's medical condition and manage assignment and deployment decisions. The other 40% of cases, when an airman's ability to perform their military duties is significantly impacted, are referred into the Disability Evaluation System. The first step in the DES is a Medical Evaluation Board, or MEB.
The MEB, held at the local MTF, determines whether an airman meets Air Force medical retention standards and documents the impact of the airman's conditions on their overall physical or mental ability to continue serving in the military. The medical case summary is based on a review of the airman's medical records and the VA's examinations. The MEB package also includes the commander's impact statement. The MEB consists of a minimum of 3 physicians, and in cases involving behavioral health conditions, 1 physician must be a mental health care provider. Although an airman does not appear before the MEB, after the board is held and approved by the MEB president, the airman will be given an opportunity to review the MEB results. If they disagree with the MEB recommendation, then the airman may request an impartial medical review, or IMR, by a physician or other appropriate healthcare professional independent of the MEB. This is the airman's first opportunity to exercise their due process rights in the DES. The purpose of an IMR is threefold. First, to serve as an independent source of review of the MEB findings and recommendations. Second, to advise and counsel the service member regarding the findings and recommendations of the MEB. And third, to advise the service member on whether the MEB findings adequately reflect the complete spectrum of the service member's injuries and illnesses. In addition, airmen also have the right to submit a rebuttal letter to the MEB for consideration.
The informal board is an administrative board within the Air Force Personnel Center charged with determining whether wounded, ill, or injured airmen are fit for continued military service. The IPEB consists of 2 members, 1 line officer and 1 medical officer, who conduct a records-only review of the MEB package and will decide whether to return airmen to duty or to recommend disability separation or retirement. The IPEB gives careful consideration to every airman's disability case to ensure each airman receives the benefit of a full and fair adjudication in accordance with appropriate instructions and law. According to DES policy, an airman may be found unfit for continued service when their medical condition makes the member unable to reasonably perform the duties of his or her office, grade, rank, or AFSC, represents a decided medical risk to the health of the member or to the welfare or safety of others, or imposes unreasonable requirements on the military to maintain or protect the airman's health. Fitness for duty is based on numerous factors, including but not limited to the medical condition's impact on an airman's duties, treatment history and prognosis, years of service, rank, fitness limitations, and deployment and assignment requirements.
If the IPEB finds an airman unfit for continued service, the IPEB will send the case to the Department of Veteran Affairs and request a proposed VA rating decision for those medical conditions which made the airman unfit. Upon receipt of the VA rating information, the IPEB will apply the VA disability rating percentages to the airman's unfitting medical conditions to determine a final outcome. The VA proposed rating decision is derived using the Veterans Administration Schedule for Rating Disabilities, or VASRD. VASRD percentage ratings are based on the severity of a diagnosis using range of motion limitations, laboratory findings, or functional impact. As previously mentioned, while the VA rates all service-connected conditions, the IPEB will only apply ratings to unfitting conditions. Disability separation or retirement will be based on service connection, years of service, and the combined VA disability rating for the unfitting conditions. To qualify for either permanent or temporary retirement, an airman who has less than 20 years of service must have a total disability rating of 30% or more, or the airman could be separated with severance pay. Airmen with less than 8 years of service who have an unfitting medical condition that existed prior to military service and was not permanently worsened by their service are not eligible for compensation and will be discharged without benefits. Members are placed on the Temporary Disability Retirement List, or TDRL, when their unfitting condition is unstable and requires additional evaluation or treatment before a final compensation decision can be made.
Once the IPEB has made a determination, the staff will forward the Air Force findings and recommended disposition form back to the MTF. The PEBLO will notify the airman's commander and discuss the findings with the airman. At this point, the airman has 3 options. First, the airman may agree with the IPEB decision. Second, the airman may agree with the IPEB but request VA reconsideration of the disability ratings. The VA will only reconsider ratings for an airman's unfitting conditions, and only if the airman has new documentation in support of an increased disability rating percentage. Disability ratings for other claimed conditions may be readdressed following the airman's separation or retirement from active service. Third, the airman may disagree with the IPEB decision and appeal to the formal board. If they request an FPEB hearing, airmen may request VA reconsideration of disability ratings at a later time. If an airman elects to appeal the IPEB decision, expect a hearing date at the FPEB as soon as 10 days after informing the PEBLO of that decision.
The FPEB hearings are held at Joint Base San Antonio Randolph. Airmen have the right to attend their hearing in person, over the phone, or through video teleconferencing. The FPEB is a non-adversarial hearing which consists of a medical officer and 2 line officers. Each airman has the right to free Air Force legal assistance in presenting their case before the FPEB. An airman may also retain a civilian attorney of their choice at their expense or request the assistance of a Veterans Service Organization representative. The airman's attorney will guide the airman through their testimony, and the board members may also ask questions to clarify the documentation or testimony. The FPEB will provide a full and fair hearing considering the MEB case file, the IPEB decision, the airman's testimony, the testimony of any witnesses, and any additional submitted documentation.
Airmen traveling to San Antonio will be provided funded TDY orders to arrive 1 day prior to their hearing. This will allow them time to confer with their attorney and finalize preparation. The PEBLO will provide the airman the reporting date and reporting instructions. Commanders in the MTF should carefully consider whether an escort or non-medical attendant is needed to attend the formal hearing with the airman. An authorized escort, for example a spouse or other unit member, may be appropriate when the airman is not physically or mentally able to travel without assistance. Other family members and wingmen not acting in an authorized escort status are welcome to accompany the member, but must do so at personal or unit expense. Once the FPEV has completed adjudication, the Air Force findings and recommended disposition will be sent to the PEBLO, who notifies the commander prior to discussing the findings with the airman. Again, the airman may make one of three decisions: agree with the FPEV decision, agree with the FPEV decision and request VA reconsideration, or disagree with the FPEV decision and submit a rebuttal to the Air Force Personnel Board.
The Air Force Personnel Board, located at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, is an administrative board which conducts a records-only review of an airman's FPEV appeal. The Air Force Personnel Board is a component board of the Secretary of the Air Force Personnel Council, known as SAF-PC. Similar to the FPEV, airmen have the right to the assistance of an attorney in presenting their case before the Air Force Personnel Board. Now that we've given some baseline information about the DES process, we'd like to answer the main questions we know many of you have. What does the unit leadership need to do, and how can I help my airmen? We'll start with a few frequently asked questions for commanders. What is my role as a commander? As a commander, you actually have several important roles. The first is to provide insight to the Medical Evaluation Board through the Commander's Impact Statement, Air Force Form 1185. What you provide on this form is the most important input into understanding the impact an airman's medical condition has on their ability to do their job and contribute to the mission. A commander's in-depth knowledge of the unit's and Air Force's mission and your airman's contributions to those missions are critical to the board's ability to adjudicate the case. We'll discuss the commander's impact statement more in depth later in the presentation. In addition, the airman's chain of command can also help manage expectations and ensure the airman is ready to transition to civilian life if found unfit for continued military service. Commanders and first sergeants should encourage their airmen to take steps to prepare for the strong likelihood of separation or retirement, including early participation in the Transition Assistance Program, and must make the airman available to attend all necessary DES processing appointments and examinations. Understanding the process and who to reach out to when questions arise can help your airmen make the best possible decisions.
What information can and can't be shared with the commander? Patient confidentiality in the medical system is obviously a concern, but as a commander, you have the right to information regarding your airman's DES processing. Some protected health information, or PHI, may be shared with commanders. In accordance with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, and the privacy rule pertaining to military command exception, MTFs may disclose the minimum necessary amount of PHI to support mission accomplishment. For example, the unit commander may contact the airman's primary care manager or military provider regarding the airman's medical condition in order to complete the commander's impact statement. The PEBLO will keep the commander informed as their airman continues to progress through the DES process, including updates on all DES and VA examination appointments. Commanders will also be notified if an airman fails to report for any scheduled examinations, and if necessary, units may be asked to provide an escort. At any time, the commander may contact the Pueblo regarding non-clinical information pertaining to the airman's DES process status. Clinical questions should be posed to the PCM or other clinical representatives.
What happens if my airman gets in trouble while going through the DES? Misconduct and how it affects your airman's DES processing is a complicated issue contingent upon a host of factors, including the type, severity, and timing of the misconduct, to name a few. It is critical you let the servicing Pueblo know as soon as possible whenever there is an issue of misconduct with potential disciplinary actions being considered or taken. Your servicing legal office can help guide you through the implications your disciplinary choices may have on your airman's DES processing.
What is the Limited Assignment Status, or LAS program? You may have heard the term LAS, but what is it? LAS is a program that allows the retention of an airman who's been found unfit with between 15 and 20 years of active service when there's a need for the member's skill, experience, grade, and/or their specialty. The airman must have an essentially stable medical condition and must be able to function in a normal military environment without adverse effect on their health, the health or safety of others, and without need for an excessive amount of medical care. An airman may apply for limited assignment status after he or she accepts a PED unfit decision or after their final appeal. The Chief of the Physical Disability Division is the approval authority for LAS. The Commander's recommendation is a crucial piece of the LAS application.
May DES airmen have retirement ceremonies? Yes. Honoring an airman's career is important. Airmen with less than 20 years of service who are permanently retired due to medical reasons are eligible for a retirement ceremony, just like airmen who retire with a length of service retirement. Since placement on the Temporary Disability Retired List, or TDRL, is a temporary status for airmen, individuals placed on the TDRL are not eligible to receive certain recognition, such as an official retirement certificate. However, it is certainly appropriate, and the Air Force encourages commanders to officially acknowledge the service and contributions of these airmen in a recognition ceremony. The Air Force MIPERS page on the retirement recognition, linked on the resources slide of this presentation, has additional information to assist in organizing a ceremony for airmen transitioning to the TDRL.
Another important link listed on the resources slide is a commander's fact sheet, which is a quick reference guide to the DES and feedback for commanders as to how they should fill out the commander's impact statement. In more detail, the next 3 slides relate specifically to the commander's impact statement. On this slide is the first section of the statement. The key to helping us understand your airman's condition and how it impacts their ability to do their job is for the commander to be specific and candid. Explain how the medical condition affects the specific tasks required in the airman's primary and garrison duties, with or without restrictions, limitations, or workarounds. Also, explain the impact to your deployed mission, if any.
Question 3 expands further on the specific impact your airman's medical condition has on their daily duties. Question 4 is an important aspect of the commander's input, as at times there can be a miscommunication between the medical provider and command regarding the assessments of the airman's medical condition. Thus, we highly encourage commanders speak to the PCM. Section 6 of the Commander's Impact Statement is your opportunity to recommend whether or not your airmen should be retained in service to perform the in-garrison and deployed responsibilities associated with their current Air Force specialty. Please be specific as to what you believe would be the optimal outcome for the member, your organization, and the needs of the Air Force regarding his or her continued military service. We understand those interests can sometimes compete, but your best professional assessment, based on your first-hand knowledge of the airmen and the needs of your unit's mission, is invaluable. Please understand that this section should not be used to recommend retraining into another AFSC, as retraining options should be discussed before entry into the DES.
You'll note Section 7 of the Commander's Impact Statement allows your airmen to provide their point of view as well. This provides transparency, helps reduce uncertainty, and manages an airman's expectations early in the DES process. The number of resources available to an ill or injured airman can be overwhelming, so your willingness to help your airmen understand what is available and how to access the correct information can be critical to their care, recovery, and transition. Many times, airmen receive inaccurate information via word of mouth from a friend or an unofficial source, setting the airmen up for confusion and disappointment. Another good resource to recommend to your airmen is the DES section of the MyPERS website. There are a number of other resources provided by the Air Force and DoD. Many target wounded warriors, however, the resources are helpful to all airmen going through the DES. A quick reminder, you and your airmen's primary go-to is the local PEBLO. These additional resources are meant to supplement that relationship.
With that, we thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. Hopefully, this was time well spent for you and your command teams, and you're walking away with a better understanding of the DES and how you can help your airmen navigate through the system. If you have any questions, please contact your local PEBLO. Thanks, and have a great day.